What's up, you guys? It's Graham here. So I think it's no surprise that throughout the last 11 years, I've made my entire focus centered around real estate. I would save up as much money as I possibly could. I would not buy Starbucks with it, and then once I had enough money, I would buy a property to then rent out. That continued to the point where over the last 7 years, I've accumulated just over $4 million worth of real estate, mostly centered throughout the Los Angeles region here in California. And even though it's been a bit of an arduous journey to go and find these properties and remodel them and then rent them out and then get them up and running, it's been nothing short of amazing, and by far, it's been my favorite investment of all time. But it doesn't stop there. Flash forward to today, and I've literally been saving away every single cent I made from real estate sales, and also on those annoying 5-second ads that you see on my YouTube videos. And I'm going to be throwing all of that money back into buying another property so I could document the entire experience firsthand and show you exactly what goes on behind the scenes of buying a rental property and building up a real estate portfolio. So maybe almost consider this like video number 1 in that series, where I'm going to be going over exactly why I'm throwing everything I have into real estate, exactly what I look for, and what makes real estate such a good investment in the first place. And as always, if you guys enjoy videos like this, make sure to do me just a small favor and just make the like button turn blue. But anyway, with that said, let's get into the video. Now, one of the main reasons I've chosen to invest in real estate is a very simple one, but also something that not enough people fully appreciate, and that would be leverage. This is the practice in which you borrow cheap money that then goes and makes you more money somewhere else. That means that you're able to profit the difference between what you pay out and what you receive in return. Let's just say in the first scenario, you go and buy a $100,000 home outright in cash that makes you $1,000 a month in rental income. That means your $100,000 makes you $12,000 annually, or a 12% return on your money. Now, that's not bad, but then imagine in situation number 2, where if instead you use that $100,000 as a down payment to buy a $400,000 property that makes you $4,000 a month. And from that, you end up getting a $300,000 loan at a 5% interest rate, meaning you spend $15,000 a year in interest. Now, that means you have $48,000 a year coming in, you have $15,000 a year coming out as interest, leaving you with $33,000 a year in profit. That means that leveraging that $100,000 took you from a 12% return when you buy a property outright in cash to a 33% return when you just leverage your money. All for the exact same amount of money and all for the exact same amount of work. This is why real estate is really such a game of smart long-term borrowing and using debt as a tool rather than as a weapon. And I've used this analogy before, but it's just so true. Debt is a lot like fire. It could be something that cooks your food and keeps you warm, or it could be something that burns you alive if you don't know how to properly use it. So leveraging real estate like this is really something that you need to have work for you and really understand and respect that, and not take advantage of it, and also just not make stupid decisions either. But when used properly, leverage is really one of the main reasons why I invest in real estate, because you can control a very large amount of assets with only a small amount of your own money out of pocket. Now, secondly, another hugely important reason I invest in real estate, as well as pretty much every single real estate investor ever, is cash flow. This means you'll be getting a consistent amount of money returning to your pocket each and every month as your tenant pays you rent. This is actually the reason why I started investing in real estate to begin with. I was working as a real estate agent, and the inconsistencies in that income was really starting to wear on me. Like, some months I would end up making a lot of money, and then other months I would make absolutely nothing for months on end while I was working 10 to 12 hours a day, and that sort of lifestyle didn't really sit well with me. So I chose to invest all of my money that I had saved up in real estate, knowing that at the very least I would have a base level of rental income coming in every single month that could hold me over until I sold a house. Now, the term most real estate investors use when it comes to calculating how much money you're making is known as your cash on cash return. This just means how much money are you making from the amount of money that you put in. Like, if you invest $100,000 and that brings you back $20,000 in profit, then that just becomes a 20% cash on cash return. And then that really becomes the baseline from which you could begin anticipating how much of a return a certain investment is going to be making you. So for me, I've really focused on trying to increase my cash flow each and every year, even if it means that the next year I make just a little bit more than the year before. Like, I'll go and make strategic upgrades so I could justify maybe a higher rental price, or I will buy a property in a strong rental market, or I will buy more durable materials knowing that they won't need to be repaired as often. And really, by doing this and building it up over time, I've been able to generate about $5,000 a month now in rental income that's enough to pay for all of my day-to-day expenses plus some. And the best part about the rental rental income is that it's extremely consistent, almost like clockwork. And for me, I don't really worry about prices fluctuating up and down like I would with stocks, and even in the event I have a vacancy, for the most part, my income might drop a little bit for a month or two, but overall, from my experience over the last 7 years, it's been incredibly consistent. And that to me is really the end goal when it comes to real estate investing. But third, let's talk about another huge benefit of investing in real estate, and also a topic that I dread talking about. It gives me the shivers, and that would be taxes. Now, as I'm sure we all know, taxes could put a major dent in how much you actually take home from a paycheck or from your profit. But thankfully, real estate has some amazing tax benefits and advantages that means that oftentimes you're not going to have to owe any taxes that you make in real estate at all. And here's why. First of all, pretty much everything in real estate is a tax write-off against your rental income. Like, the mortgage interest that you pay is counted as an expense, and therefore it's a tax write-off. Or the property taxes that you pay is a tax write-off, and the insurance that you pay on that property is a tax write-off. Or any repairs that you have to make throughout owning the property is a tax write-off. Like, it even seems as though you could look at the property the right way and it just becomes a tax write-off. But seriously though, any expense that you incur to generate a profit is just reduced by your total taxable income, and therefore you end up owing the IRS just a little bit less money. But wait, there's more. In addition to that, you also have something that's called depreciation. This is a tax law strategy where you can depreciate the value of the property over 27.5 years to offset your rental income, because according to the IRS, every single year your property is deteriorating and therefore losing value, and you should be compensated for that. Wink, wink. Now here's an example of how that works. Let's just say you have a property that's worth $275,000. That means that each and every year for the next 27.5 years, you could depreciate that property by $10,000. That means that the first $10,000 you make in profit in net rental income after all of your expenses is completely tax-free. In addition to that, you can also itemize some of the upgrades that you do to depreciate it over an even shorter period of time, therefore making potentially a lot more income from that, also completely tax-free. This is how I'm able to make about $5,000 in net rental income without really having to worry about paying taxes on that, because I could depreciate the value of the property and show on paper that these properties are actually running at a loss. This is something you can't really do with many other assets out there, and is a major reason why so many people choose to invest in real estate, knowing that the profit that they get in return isn't going to be taken away from the IRS. Now, speaking of depreciation, let's flip that around and talk about another reason why so many people invest in real estate, including myself, and that would be appreciation. So here's what this is and why I like this so much. See, over the long term, your property should be going up in value as demand increases, and also as inflation just makes everything else more expensive, including your property. And that means that one day your property is going to be worth way more than it is today. And then once you combine appreciation with leverage, you could start to see some pretty significant returns. For instance, here's an example. Let's say you buy a property for $100,000, you put $20,000 down, and then over the next year, the property goes up in value 10%, and now it's worth $110,000. Now, if you went and put $100,000 down and bought the home in cash, you would have just made a 10% return on your money, which is not bad. But if you financed the property and got a mortgage with a $20,000 down payment, a 10% increase in price translates to a 50% return on your down payment, for pretty much doing like absolutely nothing. And that's why I really like investing not only for cash flow, but also with the intention of having the property go up in value. I try my best to buy in areas that I feel are up and coming, with a strong and diverse job market where I feel like prices still have room to expand. Now, obviously, I'm talking about Los Angeles because I grew up and I live here, but there are so many other big cities across the United States where you can make a very similar investment as well. And also, not to mention, in most areas, homes just will generally appreciate in value each and every year. Now, of course, some areas are going to be going up in value more than others, but the general rule of thumb here is that a home's value is going to keep pace with inflation, which is usually somewhere between 2 and 3% annually. And then depending on how desirable that area becomes, you might see an additional few percent appreciation each and every year in the long run. This really means that over 30 years on average, you might expect to see anywhere from 3 to 6% appreciation each and every year. Like I said, some areas may be more than others, some might be less desirable, some might be way more desirable, but this would be the average long term depending on the area that you're investing in. Honestly, in the short term, who knows what the real estate market is going to be doing, but all I really care about is the long term. What is it going to be worth 20 to 30 to 40 years from now, not what it's going to be worth 3 or 4 years from now. Now, speaking of all of this property value and profit talk, and then not paying taxes talk, that brings me to one of my favorite points in real estate that I love more than just about anything, and that would be the almighty cash-out refinance. Now this one is a little bit difficult to explain, but I'll do my best to simplify it as much as I can. Let's just say you bought a home worth $250,000 many years ago, and now it's worth $600,000. That means that you have $350,000 available to you in profit, but the money is tied up in the house just sitting there not really doing anything. Well, the thing is, if you want to get access to that money, most people just think, well, you would have to go and sell that property, and then once you sell it, whatever money you have left over is yours to freely spend and use. But the downside with that is that when you sell, you have to pay taxes on that profit, which could leave you with a lot less money than you had originally anticipated. So an alternative to that option of selling is to borrow against the money that you already have sitting in the home, which is known as the cash-out refinance. So in this case, since you have $350,000 worth of profit that's tied up in a property, you can go to a bank who will give you $350,000 as a loan that you will repay in the form of a new mortgage, and now you have the money accessible to you to use, and you still get to keep the property. It's a lot like saying I have $100 worth of profit that I want to use, but it's locked up, and I don't want to unlock it, otherwise I will have to pay taxes on it. So instead, I will borrow $100 from a bank, who then holds on to my $100 in the event I don't pay them. Now I have $100 to spend, and I'm never taxed on that money. Then once you get that new mortgage, the same rules apply as above. The interest that you pay on that mortgage is a tax write-off, and you also get to continue leveraging your money to make even more money. Real estate right there for the win. And this video really only scratches the surface of how people are making money doing this. Other advantages include just buying a property below what it's worth, or fixing it up to raise its value and therefore raise the rents. Not to mention the almighty 1031 exchange, which allows you to indefinitely defer taxes every time you sell real estate to go and buy something else. But I will go over all of those in subsequent videos. And if there's interest for me to document my progress and my experiences trying to find the next deal, just let me know. I've really started looking about 2 weeks ago, and now I'm just like really motivated to try to find the right place. And yeah, lately the grind has been real. There's pretty much nothing out there that's a good enough deal for me to want to get. And so right now it's really just a matter of patience and looking every single day to try to find one single place that could work. So if you guys want more of like a vlog style video like that, just let me know. But anyway, it's really because of everything that I've mentioned here, which is why I put so much emphasis and effort into real estate investing over the last 8 years. Pretty much everything I make goes into buying real estate, which makes me more money to then buy more real estate, which makes more money to buy more real estate until eventually I get enough so I can get you guys to finally make the like button turn blue if you haven't done that already. So with that said, you guys, thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate it. If you guys enjoy videos like this, as always, make sure to subscribe, hit the notification bell. Feel free to add me on Instagram. I post it pretty much daily, so if you want to be a part of it there, feel free to add me there. Also, feel free to add me on my second channel. It is called The Graham Stephan Show. I post there pretty much every day. I don't post here, so if you want to see me now every day, feel free to add me there. Thank you again for watching, and until next time.